The 1920s quiz. Number 1. This amendment to the Constitution gave women the right to vote. A, 17th, B, 18th, C, 19th. Number 2. Which best describes the effect the 18th Amendment had on society? A, it increased bootlegging and other criminal activity. B, it gave women the right to vote. C, it gave federal authorities more power to investigate. Number 3, the issue involved in the Scopes trial was A, whether foreign-born radicals were guilty of murder. B, whether police officers had the right to go on strike. C, whether the theory of evolution could be taught in public schools. Number 4, which statement best describes the changing role of women in society in the 1920s after they had the right to vote? A, more women were living independently in cities and having jobs. B, women started taking over jobs by men who were then serving in World War II. C, women went from serving in World War I to going back to the home and being housewives. Number 5, to obtain liquor illegally, drinkers went underground to hidden nightclubs known as A, speakeasies, B, tenements, C, tea rooms. 5, which statement best describes flappers? A, emancipated young women who embraced new fashions and urban attitudes of the day. B, older ladies who practiced traditional values. C, none of the above. Number 7, the immigration policies of the 1920s limited immigration from all of the following countries except A, Italy, B, China, or D, Mexico. Number 8, the main factor causing urban sprawl or growth in the 1920s was A, the automobile, B, the use of electricity, C, growth in industry. Number 9, to protect their own interests, employers often accuse strike workers of being A, spies, B, communists, or C, bigots. Number 10, the majority of people lived in urban cities in blank than in rural areas. So the majority of people lived in cities in blank than in rural areas. A, 1920, B, 1925, C, 1927. Number 11, the Harlem Renaissance refers to A, a struggle for civil rights led by the NAACP, B, a population increase in Harlem in the 1920s, C, a celebration of African American culture in literature and art. 12, the panic surrounding the threat of communism in the early 1920s was called the A, Big Scare, B, Red Scare, C, Communist Scare. 13, Henry Ford is best known for inventing the A, automobile, B, assembly line, C, disassembly line. Number 14, John T. Scopes challenged a Tennessee law that forbade the teaching of A, biology, B, evolution, C, creationism. Number 15, fundamentalists believed that A, prohibition should be repealed, B, the Bible should be taken literally, word for word, C, drinking alcohol was acceptable. '16, F. Scott Fitzgerald described the 1920s as the A, Harlem Renaissance, B, Jazz Age, C, Roaring Twenties. Number 17, because of prohibition, blank increased during the 1920s. A, the birth rate, B, the school dropout rate, C, the crime rate. 18, the Great Migration of 1910 to 1920 refers to the movement of A, people from rural areas and towns to large cities, B, African Americans from the United States to Europe, C, African Americans from the South to northern cities. 19, a blank is someone who provided illegal alcohol during Prohibition. A bootlegger, B, shoelegger, C, bartender. 20, this describes the era after the 18th Amendment went into effect. A, the Red Scare, B, Jazz Age, C, Prohibition. 21, these individuals were the lawyers at the Scopes trial. A, Clarence Darrow, B, William Jennings Bryan, C, Charles Lindbergh, or E, A and B. '22, which of the following indicate changes in the women's lives that occurred in the 1920s? A, short skirts, B, drinking and smoking in public, D, the daring attitudes, or E, all of the above. When you are finished, hit submit.